Welcome to the Rent to Rent Success podcast, the only podcast entirely dedicated to helping you achieve rent to rent success. We talk about the ethical way to get you started in property without buying it. This is our place to inspire each other to believe bigger, to be bolder, and to be game changers for good. Property investors and sisters Stephanie and Nicky Taylor are your guides on this exciting ride. Let's start up the engines and get ready to fly. Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie here. Welcome to episode 16 of Ask the Angels, where we answer your rent-to-rent questions. If you've got a burning question that you'd love me to answer, then please go to renttoRentSuccess.com/ask, ASK, and record your question there for me to answer. We've had an interesting question from Vicky about how to refurbish a rent-to-rent property with tenants in it. Here's Vicky's question. If I need to move a tenant that came with the HMO when I took it on, do I have to issue a Section 21 and wait 6 months due to the latest COVID regs? The tenants haven't broken any clauses though. I just wish to refurb and increase the rent and they aren't willing. Also, how do you go about refurbing a property that has some existing tenants in it? Doesn't it upset or anger them having building works going on whilst living there? I love this question. There's a lot in this question. And it's knowing the answers to questions like these, having people in your corner who've been through this, who know what to do, that'll help you make your business a success rather than fumbling around in the dark, being stressed and losing money. So, and you're great because you're in this podcast. So I'm going to tackle the first bit first. What Vicky's asked about first is if I would like a tenant to move out, no matter what reason you want them to move out for, in this case, it's because they're not willing to have a refurbishment or the rent increase or maybe both. So I'm going to tackle the Section 21 bit first. Section 21, just to give you this information in case you don't know, is the document you need to serve on a tenant to give notice you'd like them to move out. This is the document you give when there are no arrears or antisocial behaviour, etc. It's sometimes called a no-fault eviction. Usually, a Section 21 must give your tenants at least 2 months' notice to leave your property. Because of coronavirus, you must now give them a longer notice period. So if you gave your tenants notice between the 26th of March when coronavirus happened, the 26th of March when we were in lockdown to the 28th of August, then the notice period was at least 3 months. Okay, then the government changed it so that if you gave notice between August 2020 and 31st of May 2021, the notice period had to be at least 6 months. And then after June, the 1st of June 2021, the government changed the notice period on the Section 21 notices to at least 4 months. Okay, and in Wales, the notice period must be at least 6 months if your tenant gave notice on or after the 24th of July 2020. So if you're not in either England or Wales, you'll need to check what the position is where you are. So that's the eviction process. You need to give a lot of notice if you'd like people to move out. So as we've said many times before, we prefer to agree with the tenants to leave voluntarily by communication. That's how we always do it. We've never not succeeded because there's always a point at which the offer you make to your tenant makes it much better for them to move out and that they want to move out and partner with you on that. Now, if somebody does agree to move out voluntarily, we still would serve the Section 21 notice as a backup so that we don't need to start at the beginning of the time frame. But we would just agree everything with them voluntarily, and you know, they would give us the date when they're going to move on. It just works out so much better that way. The real point is, if you are happy with a tenant and the only reason you wanted to move out is about the refurb, it's not in your best interest to go through the eviction process when you don't have to. And I think you kind of wondered about that, didn't you, Vicky? Because the second part of your question was, how do you go about refurbing a property that has existing tenants in it? Doesn't it upset or anger them having works going on whilst living there? Well, actually, no. You might be surprised, but no. When we take on properties with existing tenants, we discuss this with the tenants. Any works that need to be done, anything that's outstanding. Tenants are usually delighted that improvements are being made to their home. Sometimes it's things that they've been asking for a long time. But let's just play devil's advocate for a moment and say that a tenant is not happy that their home is being redecorated. They can always give you notice and move on. So far, we haven't had any tenants move out because they don't want their home improved. That hasn't happened. So what we do then is we'll discuss with the housemates what work is being done, and we'll make a plan. So for example, one property we took on, it was a 7-bed HMO. The hob was replaced, the whole property was redecorated, and a new shower was being installed in the second bathroom because unbelievably in the 7-bed, the second bathroom did not have a shower. So we were installing a shower for the first time. The housemates were delighted that these works were being done. The old hob wouldn't work. It kept tripping the electrics, which was a little bit scary as well. And it just needed to be replaced. They were delighted that all of the works that were done were being done. And there were a few other works being done in some of the empty rooms, which didn't really affect people as much who were living there. So what we did was the new hob was fitted within an hour. So there was hardly any downtime for the cooker. And we did that during the day when the housemates were at work. The decorating of all the communal areas, again, was done during weekdays, which fits in with how most contractors work anyway. While the housemates were at work, so there was less disruption. And because not all the rooms were full, housemates were able to sleep in an empty room while their own rooms were being painted, and maybe the night after as well, while the paint fumes diffused. And the shower again was fitted in one visit and caused little disruption since all the housemates were using one shower anyway beforehand. But then afterwards, they had the choice of 2. So it really works well. People are open when you communicate and you ask them what was wrong, what things need improving, and then you come up with a plan to do it. Most housemates are absolutely delighted that, when you do that. So you mentioned in there as well, rent increase. So whereas housemates may be happy that the place is being refurbished, they may not be happy about rent increases. So when we take on a new property, sometimes there are rent increases. And again, this is something to discuss with your housemates. So for those who would like to stay on, you can issue new ASTs at the new rents. For people who prefer to move on, they'll give you notice, which saves you from evicting them and is better for everyone. Again, you can do your voluntary arrangements backed up by a Section 21. So in summary, Vicky, tenants are usually delighted when you're going to be improving their home. And if not, they may give you notice, which saves you the time, inconvenience, and expense of eviction. So regarding rent increases, again, you discuss this with your housemates, and then if they prefer to move on, they can. And if not, they'll stay on as your tenant at the new higher rent, and you'll have no voids on your room in the period in between. It's a much smoother way to handle things simply by communicating effectively with your housemates. So I hope that was useful. If you've got any follow-up questions, or if you've got a question that you would like to ask, as I say, go to rentsuccess.com/ask. You can record an audio for your question right there on the website. And if you're new with us today and you want to learn more about how to get started in rent to rent, or if you've been with us on the podcast for a while, but you want to take the first practical steps, then do check out our free Rent to Rent Success guide. That's a PDF. And we've got a masterclass to watch It's 90 minutes going over everything you need to know about rent to rent. So that's at renttoRentSuccess.com/guide. That's all for now. I'll see you next time on Ask the Angels. Bye for now. Thank you so much for being with me here today. If you would like more, we've written the #1 best-selling book on rents to rent. You can find it at renttoRentSuccess.com/book. Reviewers on Amazon have described it as the best rent-to-rent HMO book and also as a definitive reference guide and inspirational. Take your next step today and buy the book. You can find it at rentsuccess.com/book. And I'll see you again next time. Until then, remember, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer.